right. Good evening and welcome. I'd like to call to order the regularly scheduled meeting of the Planning Commission for today, May 14th. We will let's start with a roll call. We'll note that everybody's present, and then we'll go into the pledge. And according to my agenda, I'm doing that this evening. So. All right. So please stand and join me with the pledge. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. So that brings us to our public comments section of the meeting. This is the time set aside for anybody who would like to make comments on something that is not on this evening's agenda. Do we have any requests to speak? Okay. Seeing none, we will move on. This evening we have a consent calendar. So I'm willing to entertain a motion.
Motion to accept the consent calendar as presented.
I'll second.
Okay. Call the question. Let's vote. So we can clarify that after the fact.
Thank you.
Okay. So looks like we have Commissioner Ludden abstained. Okay, and then just for purposes of the minutes, Commissioner Villameda is also abstaining. Is that right? Yeah. Okay, well, anyway, motion carries. And we will move to our public hearing.
Actually, that's going to be you.
Chair and members of the Commission, at this time, Ms. Ackerman will be sitting down, and the matter will be presented by Jennifer Mansour due to the fact that Ms. Ackerman sat as the hearing officer in the first instance and rendered the decision which is being appealed to the Planning Commission at this time.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. This item is the appeal of the Director of Development Services denial for determination of public convenience or necessity, also known as a PCN, for the sale of beer and wine at an existing store located in the El Toro Plaza West Shopping Center at the corner of El Toro and Muirlands. In July of 2013, the Planning Commission approved use permit 4-13-3288 for a convenience store at this location. The original approval of the use permit was processed in conjunction with a request for a determination of PCN for a Type 21 ABC license, which allows for the sale of beer, wine, and distilled spirits. In 2013, the applicant indicated that if the PCN request was denied, he would not operate a convenience store at this location. The use permit for the convenience store remains valid till July of this year. The request for determination of PCN was denied by the Planning Commission and by the City Council on appeal in 2013. At the dais, we've included the denial letter that was sent to the Alcohol Beverage Control, or ABC, which lists the reasons for the Planning Commission and the City Council denied the PCN request, which is on page 3 of that letter up there, which we didn't have in the original report but thought might be helpful for you. The business is currently called Lake Forest Smoke and Cigar and sells primarily tobacco and tobacco-related smoking products. In January of this year, the business owner reapplied for another PCN, this time for a beer and wine only license at the establishment. The applicant is proposing to change the name of the business to Lake Forest Beer and Wine Market and operate as a convenience store as described in the use permit. The census tract for the business has allowed 3 off-sale liquor licenses and currently has 7 in the tract. The tract already has an undue concentration of licenses, which is the reason that the Alcohol Beverage Control Department is requiring the PCN. The factors for determining PCN are outlined in your staff report. The applicant carries the burden of proving that public convenience or necessity would be served by granting a license. The request for PCN was reviewed and analyzed by city staff. The Director of Development Services determined that the material presented by the applicant did not include sufficient facts or information to adequately demonstrate that public convenience or necessity would be served by the issuance of an additional license in the census tract, and the PCN was denied administratively. Within the appeal period of the decision, the PCN was appealed by the applicant to the Planning Commission. The staff report for this item outlines the proposed operation of the convenience store, including the security at the store, and includes a justification from the applicant for the PCN. As noted in the staff report, the Planning Commission has 3 options regarding the appeal. Deny the requested determination of PCN and direct staff to provide a resolution for denial. Approve the PCN, reversing the director's decision and direct staff to provide a resolution for approval, or decline to act, in which the determination for PCN would be made by the Department of Alcohol Beverage Control. Staff has received 1 letter of opposition of approving the PCN at this location from the property owner of both the El Toro Mobile Estates and Kimberly Mobile Home Park, which are located in close proximity to the proposed business, and it's on the dais for you today. The appellant is also in the audience tonight. And as always, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Do we have any questions for staff? Okay.
Hi, Jennifer. Thank you for a very thorough report. I'm just confused a bit on the reasons for denial this time compared to the reasons for denial last time. Has nothing changed since a year ago?
The denial by the director determined that the material wasn't adequate enough to demonstrate the public convenience or necessity.
So the material was then, did it go back to the applicant, and did he provide more material?
We have a set standard of information they need to give us to be able to review it. And we did have an incomplete letter the first time asking for, an accurate floor plan and information about the type of alcohol he's selling.
So the petition from a lot of residents in the area that was signed by potential new shoppers, and the information on CVS no longer selling cigarettes, did that come through on the original application or the second application?
The petition was only on the second during the appeal. He included that in the appeal. The information about CVS not selling cigarettes anymore was in the original.
Okay, so then the petition from potential customers, that wasn't enough bearing to say that obviously there are some people that think it might be convenient to have a store there?
Well, the petition came in as part of the appeal. So
Right.
that didn't come in until after the decision was made. by the
Okay,
director.
so then
Sorry.
you received an application, you asked for more, you got more, and then the word was, again?
Based on the letter that was denied by the Director of Development Services, that there was not enough material presented that includes sufficient facts or information to adequately demonstrate that the public convenience or necessity would be served by the issuance of an additional license. The information that we asked for to make it a complete application were things like a floor plan and description of what he was doing.
And you received all of those?
Yes.
I guess I just don't know at what point can we ever get a yes? And there's no answer to that?
The Director of Development Services is the one that makes the decision. I don't know that we have, we don't have any criteria that we use to make this decision, as you know. And so I don't know where the line is specifically.
All right, thank you.
And hopefully City Council will give us better direction soon. I know it's coming eventually at some point, maybe. And that's as much as I'll comment on that part of the process. But did anybody else have questions for staff on the issue? Okay, seeing none, I will open the... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
What's the difference between us denying the appeal or we just take no action? Effectively, what's the difference between those two?
If you take no action, then basically we write a letter to Alcohol Beverage Control that we did not take an action, and they will actually will decide if there's PCRN on behalf of the city through their own internal processes.
May I clarify that in the history of the ABC? Do they ever say yes when a commission has said no?
Well, he's saying if we don't say no, if we just decline to
If we
act.
decline
Yeah.
to act, do
If we
they ever say yes?
You know, we've never had a PCN that we've declined to act, so I'm not
well,
sure.
I've heard that they don't, that they then say no. Maybe to answer your question, if we decline to act, they won't act.
Well, that's been my impression, is they won't do anything.
For what it's worth, on that particular issue, I would agree. And I've done some appeals with, as a consultant with the ABC, and I've never seen them choose on their own. They want an answer from the city. And as a resident, I want the city to make a stand one way or another. That's my resident hat, not my commissioner hat. But so that said, anyone else have questions?
Yeah, question of staff. For the purpose and clarification at this meeting, can you kind of review the concept of the concentration of the census tracts?
For this specific census tract?
Yes,
Okay, yeah, so along El Toro Road, we have a lot of different commercial centers, and I believe there are, don't quote me, but I think about 8 commercial centers in this individual census tract, which is one of the most commercial centers we have in a single census tract. And there are currently 7 off-sale licenses in this tract, and per the ABC regulations, there are allowed to be 3 without having undue concentration. Did that answer your question?
thank you.
Okay.
Commissioner Verplank, did you have any questions before I move on? Okay. All right. So I will go ahead at this time and open the public hearing, and we have some comments, I'm sure. So,
Sam Majid Janatpur.
Good evening.
sorry, before you start, just to make a clean record, please state your name and city of residence when you come to the podium. And for anybody who hasn't been to our podium before, you'll have a green light, a yellow light, and a red light, letting you know you have 3 minutes. And we're going to stick to the 3 minutes so that everybody has a chance to make their piece. The applicant will have his time to make his presentation, but I'm just putting it out there before we go down the road. So,
Yeah, my name is Majid. Last name Janatipur. First name M-A-J-I-D. Last name J-A-N-N-A-T-I-P-O-U-R. I am the resident of Mission Vieja. Okay. First, we want to thank you in advance for your consideration tonight. We are requesting a determination of public convenience or necessity for the issuance of a Type 20 off-sale beer and wine license at the existing business address located at 24882 Maryland Boulevard. We have been in business for slightly over 1 year as Maryland's Smoke and Cigar Shop. We want to change our inventory to beer and wine, cigarette, and convenience store items, so we can become a true convenience stop for the city and our customers, and here is why. First, our shopping center will benefit. Not only have we received the support of tenants of our shopping center, we have also received feedback from the customers of our neighboring business and city residents. Having beer and wine would make it convenience for the customers of Little Caesar Pizza and Barbershop, Carl Jr. and other businesses in the center to provide beer and wine shopping option for their customers to purchase and to take home and consume it. Increasing traffic to our shopping center through our beer and wine and convenience item selections will also allow us to grow as a business, thereby increasing foot traffic to the shopping center. The shopping center could possibly then get the renovation it needs if the center began to make more money and attract a wider clientele. Second, the residents and commuter will benefit. Because the business is on Maryland Boulevard, just south of El Toro Road, the number of people that will benefit from this business will be tremendous. Maryland Boulevard connects major cities starting from Irvine to Mission Viejo and is traveled by thousands of cars every day. And because of the ease of access to this establishment heading both north and south, many will find it much more convenient to stop by and shop. Across the street is a CVS pharmacy. CVS pharmacy is not a convenience store and does not carry cigarette and cigar. The third, our business will benefit. We have received a tremendous amount of feedback from customers saying they'd like to see a convenience store with a beer and wine selection at our location. And we have 79 people, residents and shop owners, signed their petitions on this matter. At this moment, our monthly sales are limited with just a cigar and cigarette selection, but adding beer and wine and convenience items will be a natural extension of shopping experience we want to have provide to our customers and will increase sales dramatically. Based on my 30 years of experience, I estimate that our monthly sales will increase between $60,000 to $80,000 a month versus $5,000 to $6,000 right now. We want to help increase traffic to the shopping center in which we are located, sell the product that city residents are asking for, and contribute to the long-term economic development of City of Lake Forest. We want to grow our business, increase employment opportunity, and contribute to various business taxes for the city. We are continuing to listen to our customers and our residents, and we want to grow this establishment to become the most convenient, beneficial, and attractive convenience stop in the area. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. No, at this point, does anybody have specific questions for the applicant? Because otherwise, I figure we'd give everybody a chance to.
Maybe we'll listen and then
Yeah.
bring it back.
Yeah, I think it'll flow better. So go ahead and we'll let everybody who wants to speak, speak, and then figure out what questions we have afterwards. So,
Mr. A.V. Poynton?
My name is Dennis A.B. Poynton, and I am representing Plaza El Toro Investors. They are the owners of the shopping center where Majid wants to open up this liquor store. So I'm going to read to you what we felt and what we thought, and we'll go from there. In March of 2013, Plaza El Toro Investors signed a lease with Majid, subject to City of Lake Forest approval of his, gotta get my glasses on, sorry, I'm old. Approval of his use of the premises. On April 1st, 2013, a zoning affidavit was approved. In that affidavit, item 7 stated the zoning permit is the intended use. That was marked yes. Item number 11 stated is a conditional use permit CUP needed. That was marked no. Based on that affidavit, and according to the terms of the lease, the landlord issued a large tenant improvement check, and the work began immediately, including the installation of refrigeration units, counters, and other items related to this type of store. At the same time, Sam applied and paid the fees for application of the alcoholic beverage control, and posted a notification of the application on the window. On April 28th, Sam was contacted by, I believe, Sherry Kuda, and he was told to stop any construction improvement work, which, by the way, was nearly completed. Mrs. Kuda also told Sam that there was a mistake, and he had to return to the building department and complete a new zoning affidavit and reapply for approval for a conditional use permit. And you already know what happened. He was denied. Then Sam's next step was to pay more fees and address the issue with the planning commission. He was denied again. Here we are today, still paying fees, still trying to get permission now from you, members of this council. A considerable amount of money was spent in April 2013 for what? These improvements and equipment just sat there, useless. Sam was given permission, according to this zoning affidavit approval. Mistake or not, by this city, he relied on that permission. Any court of law in the state of California would agree with him. This situation handled by the city beginning April 28th suggests to me and others in the community who have approached me and Sam that there may have been some collusion on the part of the planning department and the council at that time in the denial of Sam's application. However, this is irrelevant now. We are here today not to point fingers, but to ask the council to rectify the situation and give Sam approval to open his business. If he is successful, he can reimburse the people who stood behind him and supported him during this last year and a half.
Sir?
If he fails, it becomes my problem.
I apologize for cutting you off, but you're past the red, and I let you go because I thought you were wrapping up, but
I am wrapping up.
Okay, so
Can I wrap up?
I'll go ahead and finish.
Okay.
Yes.
If he fails, it becomes a problem of the owner of the center and not the problem of the council. I'm here to ask you, I'll even get on my knees, prove this. Let this man open up. If he fails, he fails. If he makes it, he makes it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Bill Guerra.
I'll be really, really quick. I'm a silent partner next door at the barber shop.
If you could just quickly, so we have a clean record, name,
Oh,
city,
my name's Bill
residence.
Guerra. I'm sorry, Guerra. I live in Lake Forest, California. I have
Thanks.
two businesses in California, Bill's Auto Repair and the barber shop next door. I've known Sam. I call him Sam. He's been a good guy, brought a lot of people into us. He brings a lot of people in our center. A lot of new people have been coming into the barber shop from him being there. And we'd like to see him get his license to be able to grow. He's been honest with everybody. He's been honest with us. We used to be in the building that he's in now. We've gone to a smaller shop because business got slow for us. But it's worked out good, and we'd like to see him be able to make it in the building he's in because it's very expensive. And we sure like to see the council approve his request. And I thank you very much. We're for him 100%, and we're in the center. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Eric Dewhurst.
I'll make this really quick. I'm here for Paul Blake. He's one of the owners of,
Sorry, just so we have the clean record, if you could start with name and city residence.
okay.
Thank you.
My name's Barrick Dewhurst. I work for Paul Blake, who owns the Tight Quarters Barbershop, and he was unable to show up tonight, so he asked me to go and show representation for him. And the reasons have pretty much been stated between all of these guys. It would be a tremendous help to the center, drawing in more business for each store. With Sam's personality and honesty, I'm sure he'd do really well. And I can't see where it would hurt any other business. It would be a real benefit for us and a real benefit for the community. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, so I'll do a last call for public comments. That's all our comment cards, but, okay. Yep, I was actually just going to bring it back up. So seeing no more public comments, I'll bring it back up to the commission, and we'll ask him. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'd like to ask a question of those that spoke in favor of this application. I don't know who wants to handle it, but I want to ask you, what do you think about the guidelines that have been set for the census tract that has a fixed population, that it should be 3 or less licenses of the type 21? And the fact that there's actually 7, how do you address that situation?
All those licenses are over in El Toro Road. 3 of them over on the first traffic light of the freeway, and 2 more approximately, maybe 200, 300 feet away. There is nothing on Maryland except CVS pharmacy. And recently CVS pharmacy is not even selling tobacco items. I am seeing by my eyes that people driving, running from this side to other side, buying beer or buying cigarettes and taking it and going home. And also I am noticing that a lot of business over in next door, pizza place, barber shop, a lot of people going there, and a lot of people coming from Carl's Jr., and those people can get the benefit from another license of like 20 off sales, like a beer and wine, even is not the 21. So the license over in the El Toro Road has nothing actually to do with the traffic over here in Maryland. We are actually pretty much left over business on Maryland. A lot of traffic coming from Maryland, from over at the Lake Forest area, going toward the Mission Viejo, going toward the Alicia, toward the other places.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Maybe I could follow up question on that?
Yeah.
So catty corner from your census tract, which is 320.14, which is probably, I don't think anybody would argue that's our busiest retail tract in the city. It's El Toro Road, for goodness sakes. Catty corner from that is census tract 524.16. Do you know of any businesses that sell alcohol in that tract?
No.
There are none. And then directly across from you, in census tract 320.27, I believe there's one.
Yeah, that's CVS.
No, CVS would be in your tract, but this is the next tract over.
On the right?
Yeah, and
right.
do you know what that business is, Jennifer, in 320.27? It would be...
Yeah, there is a 7-Eleven, but maybe 2-3 blocks on Maryland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's not on Muirlands. It's north of El Toro. She's looking it up, but then...
I think it's the liquor store at the corner of El Toro and Geronimo.
Yes, next to
Yeah, I think,
Carsmetics.
there is a
Next to what?
Carsmetics and,
Oh, that little tiny liquor
So,
store
yeah,
in that
there's-
really difficult shopping center
yeah,
that
next to Light Industrial.
that
Park.
has all of the day workers that aren't supposed to be there that use that particular So, and then another question, if you were to travel on Muirlands and you were to go like towards Lake Forest, do you know of any convenience stores
Well,
traveling that way on
well,
Muirlands?
from our stores going toward the Lake Forest Boulevard, there is the 7-Eleven, and then cross the street, the other side is a liquor store, and Albertson, I think. Is it Albertson?
But that's not in the census tract
No, it's
524.11.
not on
I don't
this
think there's
census
anything
tract, no.
on Muirlands. So I'm just trying to maybe answer my fellow commissioner's question in a little more detail, because I don't think the applicant is privy to the lessons that we have learned here at the commission with regards to the ABC and the census tracts. I think what happens in the census tracts are there's populated areas of businesses, and so you have pockets where you're going to have more businesses, and that's what we're here to do. Is the ABC has said, so yeah, we want to have 3 in each census tract, but there's going to be census tract there's not going to be none, and so that's why you put people here to say, oh, well, then we're going to take from that census tract and put more than one. And then I look at the CVS, which of course they like to be convenient, but they don't sell cigarettes. What would, and then I look at the other businesses that are particularly in your tract. There's the El Toro Gourmet Meats, which I look at as a specialty store. Or do you consider yourself like El Toro Meats?
No.
Okay.
not
What
at
about
all.
Nina's Indian and British Grocery?
No, those are, if you check inside the store, those are all supermarket. People standing in line.
And in particular, specialty supermarkets.
No, that's a meat shop.
Especially they specialize in meat. Nina
Who
specializes
goes
in
there
Indian.
for the convenience?
Right. And then there's Mercado El Rey, which is another
Yeah, same.
Hispanic.
Yeah.
And then there's a Ralph's, which is a huge market.
Right, yeah.
And another CVS, no cigarettes, and then a gasoline store. So I don't see in that tract a convenience store. If you want to say that there's only if you want to say there is only going to be 3, if we're going to put any more, I think a convenience store would be, for me, it would be a yes, because I believe that what we have in that tract is specialty stores, we have big markets, and we have CVS that does not sell cigarettes. So to me, it's a whole different application, and this is where we come in and we can say, yes, it works, and we're not limited to 3, and we're not saturated in the city. So I hope I'm okay in kind of answering, I think, the question.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
You indicated in your presentation that you had 30 years' experience. You indicated in your presentation you had 30 years' experience.
Yes.
Can you tell me what type of experience that is? Did you own other stores besides this one?
Well, when I came to this country, it was like 38 years ago, 39 years ago. After finishing my school, I started working. My first job connected me to this type of business, which those days was very profitable. And then by all these years passed, so I established myself to grow. And the most recent one I had, it was over in Crown Valley Parkway, that I sold it. I had a plan to retire, then I retired. Unfortunately, a bad investment caused me to lose everything I had and start doing business again.
What kind of business specifically was that?
Liquor shop, market, those type of business.
Convenience store.
Convenience store, yes.
Okay. What specific things do you do?
I've been in this location about a year and a half. Well, every day I'm seeing about like maybe maximum 10 customers. My sales is not even more than $300 a day. I am working myself. But I see a lot of potential. First of all, the biggest potential this center has, easy coming and easy going out. And I see a lot of people going to the next doors, all those businesses, and coming. I have a small box selling the soda pops and selling the water, those things. And every 2-3 days I have to refill it. And this is a potential I see. A lot of people asking, where is your beer? Where is your that kind of wine or that kind of product that they are looking for? And I am giving them hope, so maybe this year, maybe this year, maybe this year. But I am saying it again, I am standing here, I am really begging you, to approve this. And I need to make money. That's the bottom line. I need to make money.
I appreciate that. I also have a responsibility to protect the citizens of this community.
Yes.
And part of my questioning is, how do you screen your customers to make sure that they're not underage? How do you train your employees to make sure that they're not inclined to sell alcohol to people that are underage? Because alcohol has a certain amount of risk that's attendant with it.
Well, during the last 35 years, I never had any ticket, so-called. I never had any complaint. I never did anything wrong. Not only me, the employee was working with me. And it's really very easy to check with the authority over in ABC. They have all the files, necessary files. And here, again, this cigar shop is much worse than opening a convenience store, so-called. But nothing illegal was done and won't be done.
Okay. I have another question. In terms of how you check for people being underage, do you have a POS system that takes care of that? Do you
No,
have
my business at this moment has not progressed because I am the only one running it. I check myself personally, their ID and their qualification if they want to buy something that I am selling.
Do you do anything to keep unscrupulous adults from coming into your store and buying alcohol and then turning around and selling it to underage kids?
Oh yeah, there is a lot of stickers that we have it. We are informing customers. If the first place you be serious, they're not going to come back. And this is the policy I have personally established and will continue to exercise.
Okay. Do you have exterior lighting in the front of the store to discourage people loitering?
I'm sorry.
Do you have exterior lighting in front of the store to discourage people from loitering?
No, the normal fixture I have. No, not like a beer or not something that attract people to the. No.
I think you might have misunderstood the question there. Why don't you repeat it, Tom?
Yeah, I'm trying to find out if the area in front of your store is lit up well enough that it discourages undesirable people from being there.
In front of all of our stores.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, sir.
No, that's fine. No, I'm just looking for an answer.
There's plenty of lighting. There's lighting underneath the eaves, there's lighting at the side, there's lighting, and it's on all day long. We leave the lights on all day long, all night. There's lights in the parking lot. I think there's 6 of them.
Okay.
And we maintain them to make sure they're always lit and never burned out.
Okay. Well, we appreciate that.
Thank you.
'Cause I've had some people who come up here and ask for licenses where they're not doing that. And our concern is to protect, the people in the neighborhood. So.
That would be 100% positive. And we are installing some cameras outside even
Okay.
to monitor all these people coming and leaving.
Now, you mentioned earlier in one of the presentations that you'd already had some equipment that was installed, but that you couldn't use it. Was that the refrigerated cases? And that
Yeah,
sort of
it
thing?
is a walk-in cooler, 14 doors, and 5 ton of the compressor in the back. We have spent money for the back room because it has to go along with the health department requirements. And we have spent a lot of money for the cabinet. Cabinet is the first class. If you see yourself, you will notice it's got a plan to put the expensive wines, put items in there and lock it. So nobody can access to those cabinets.
But you
Except
can,
that-
but you could use the refrigerated case for things that are not alcoholic, right? Did
Yeah.
the city stop you from doing that?
Oh, yeah. After, we have a control because it's a smaller store. It's about 1,600 square feet. We have a full control on those matters, yeah.
Okay, so you can use the refrigerated case. It's not, you can use, you just can't put alcohol in?
No,
I don't think they're completed yet. If I could interrupt, I went to the store today, and I would like to tell the city attorney I met this nice man today. They stopped construction, so they put up wooden cases to house the cigarettes or the different paraphernalia for the cigar and the cigarettes. So there's these huge, beautiful, which would be beautiful refrigeration systems that have been sitting unfinished for over a year now. So that's the problem, is he has at least a third of his store, or maybe it's a fourth or third of his store, that is unusable as it sits today, unless, of course, he had finished the project and just had milk and soda in there.
Thank you very much. I
yeah,
appreciate you
appreciate
answering
it.
my
Thank you
question.
very much. Yeah.
I do have a question. Sir? Yeah, I have a question. I'm over here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So quiet over here.
I am. Yeah, that's not anything but me. You said something about cameras. Have you installed cameras, or are you going
No,
to, if this is approved, you're going to install cameras on the exterior of the
Yes.
building? Is that what I'm hearing you say? I don't want to put words in your mouth. I have a question.
Yeah, exactly. When we applied it last year, I think you were sitting over here, and we committed ourselves. As soon as we get the license, we will do that.
Okay.
But since now I am running it in short hours, I haven't seen any necessity to do so.
Okay, well, I wanted to clarify that because right around the corner presents an area that I think Commissioner Ludden is also aware of, the potential for loitering and the potential for consumption of beverages outside of the store. And that's an area that, I mean, obviously, that's got to be monitored and that has to be controlled. And if this is approved, that is your responsibility. And, you know, the Sheriff's Department will no doubt respond to calls and stuff, but we don't want to create a situation where our approval of something or our recommended approval, because we don't approve it, we just make a recommendation. We don't want to be doing that and creating a situation that is not healthy for the neighborhood, and I'm sure you don't either.
Exactly.
Right.
It won't happen.
Right, so what you're telling us is that it's the intention that if you do get the Type 20 license, that there will be a monitoring system that
Exactly.
would be able to do that. Great,
Yes.
that's what I want to know. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Anybody else have any questions at this time?
I have a question for city attorney.
Okay, I think you're safe to sit.
Thank you very
Thank you, sir. We'll try not to play the up-down game too much. The floor is yours.
So I have a question for our city attorney. First of all, let me reiterate that I did meet the gentleman today. And I'm curious, are you privy to the zoning affidavits that he used back in 2000, or that he presented to the city back in 2013?
I have not seen those. Those aren't part of the package of material that I reviewed for this hearing.
Okay, so I have a copy of what he used, or how he applied back in 2013, and I believe it was in the beginning of March or April. He has a zoning affidavit that has Jennifer's signature on it. It's actually her printed name, not her signature, where it says, does zoning permit intended use? And it says yes. And is conditional use permit needed? And it says no. And then within the month or a few weeks later, there's a new zoning affidavit that has Cheryl's name on it, and it says yes for the first question, does zoning permit intended use, and then is the conditional use permit CUP needed, and then it's a yes as opposed to a no. So we went from a no, you don't need a CUP, and then yes, you do need a CUP. What does that mean, and why would we have a discrepancy in just 1 month time?
I'm going to defer to Ms. Mansour on that, since I haven't seen the declarations and I'm not aware of the zoning background at that time.
This all came up in the original use permit that unfortunately most of you were not here on the Planning Commission. But the original zoning affidavit, he described it as a market with a deli, similar to like a Nina's Market or the Mercado del Rey, which does not require a use permit in our city.
It says market, deli, wine, and spirits on the...
Right. The alcohol, so the zoning affidavit is on a form from Alcohol Beverage Control. It's not a city form. It's a form from the Alcohol Beverage Control. And they require that when they submit an application to go through their process. The only thing that it tells you is whether or not it needs a CUP from the city or not, and they wait for that approval before they issue a license. The PCN process has nothing to do with the zoning or zoning affidavit, which is what we're looking at today, which is why we didn't include it in the packets for this item here. But originally, he came in and we thought it was more of a market deli, and then ABC contacted me and kind of explained to me what he had told them on their application, which I felt was different than what he had originally told me. And we had him refill out the application as a convenience store, which does in our code require a use permit. Since then, obviously, the use permit has been approved. And so the zoning affidavit, if it was filled out today, would say it's already been approved. And the resolution from that use permit was sent to the Alcohol Beverage Control for zoning purposes. A PCN isn't part of the zoning, though. PCN is a requirement from ABC, and it's a separate type of application.
But we can suffice to say that there may have been some confusion on the part of the applicant originally, which is why the construction began and then was subsequently stopped by the city, because the CUP was at once noted you don't need it, and then it was noted that you do need it.
I'm not sure if we stopped construction, but if he said, I mean, maybe we did.
I believe that Cheryl called. I was told that Cheryl called and said stop construction.
Right. But that's probably because they didn't have the use permit with the approved floor plan to show, you know, we don't want to have a TI go through and something changes at the Planning Commission during a use permit process. However, after they got the use permit approval, although they can't sell alcohol because of the PCN denial, they could go forward with all the rest of the parts of the convenience store had they chosen to.
Okay, thank you.
Now I'm confused. So I guess I'd really like to know if the city has formally stopped his construction or not.
He can move forward with construction, and maybe you could speak to why you haven't. I'm not sure if it was ever finalized, the walk-in cooler area, but I believe that he doesn't want to use it because he doesn't want to use the whole entire thing. He actually has another cooler in there right now that has drinks in it. Go ahead, you can come up and speak. I'm not sure.
Before we get too far down, I'm going to go ahead and see if I can rephrase the question to make sure that I don't have to ask a follow-up. We'll just get it all at once. My understanding is, and from compiling the various questions and answers, is that you stopped construction at the time because you were told you needed to. Now, at this point, from a purely legal standpoint, you could continue. You may or may not have known that you could continue with the construction, and so my question partially is that. Were you aware that if it made business sense to do so, you could continue that construction? And I think that also incorporates.
Because I'm trying to understand if this was a business decision or a city mandated decision. That's basically my question.
And so then my other question.
Why don't you do one at a time?
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
we might get a little confused.
Okay. So first question is, were you aware that you could continue if you?
When I started negotiating with landlord, he draw a list contingent upon receiving approval, conditional use permit approval.
Right.
When I approached to the front desk, and I told them that this is the address and this is the plan I have, and what should I supposed to do? Said, where is the address? She went through the computer, she went through the paperwork. They said, yeah, okay, yeah, that area is, you don't need conditional use permit. You go tomorrow to ABC and bring me a blank, the form of that says a zoning affidavit.
Right.
And I went to the ABC, and they gave it to me, and took it to the city. And here, very clearly, I mentioned my name, my wife's name, address, that the type of license 21 off sales, and then the name of the business, market, daily, wine, and spirit. I mean, how clear, more clear I should supposed to be. And then Miss Jennifer put does zoning permit intended use? Yes. And then if conditional use permit needed, said no. And Jennifer and the phone number. I told them that, what is this? You go ahead and do your tenant improvement. Even at this moment, I remember there is another gentleman sitting behind the counter, and he works for building department. And I think he was hearing our conversation, because I became so excited. And immediately when I left, I called my wife, because we're so tied up on those things. I said, you know what? They approve it. How lucky we are.
Right. That part I understand, and it certainly sounds like in the beginning of this process there was some confusion, but that part of it has kind of worked itself out. I mean, from a legal standpoint, as best I can tell, I'm not a lawyer today, so, but your agreement with your landlord is satisfied because you did get the conditional use permit. He's not trying to chase you out. He wants you there. So, I mean, that part I understand completely. I'm just asking that as to the construction itself,
Yes.
once it was stopped, when you were told, okay, you have to stop.
The same day, I called him. I told him I got the conditional use permit. We can go ahead and start doing our tenant improvement, because I was so desperate to open the business as soon as possible, because he gave me some extra free monthly free rent. I wanted to use that in order to make more money to justify my work.
Yes, sir.
And so the same day, he brought his contractor. He gave me $10,000 check, and we start doing our constructions. And maybe 10 days after that, 1 week after that, the cooler was there, and they were going to put the facial on it. And after a month, that sheriff called me, said, no, stop doing your construction. And meanwhile, we did the compressor up there. I purchased like a $24,000 license. I spent a lot of small things, cabinet, those things.
Yes, sir. And I mean, I understand all that. I appreciate where you're coming from. My question is, after all that was done,
Yeah.
and so I know why you started. I get it. I probably would have done the same thing. Once you were told to stop, you stopped.
I stopped, yeah.
Right, and again, you did the right thing. City said, don't go forward. You stopped where you were. When you finally got past that point and they said, okay, now you have a conditional use permit that you didn't think you needed, we told you you didn't need it, but now you really do, and now you actually have it. So then from that point forward is my question. Did you, at that point, we're just wondering, did you choose not to finish because it didn't make sense financially, or because you didn't realize you could?
When was the conditional use permit issued?
Right. Well, I guess the question,
Yeah,
I think we're having a hard time separating the PCRN from the CUP. So not the liquor license, but just the permission to operate a business in
Yes.
there.
When I received this conditional use permit, I canceled my business over in Newport Beach. I canceled the lease. I closed the business, and I came here and concentrate everything to open this business. I had a licensing process, even I posted behind the windows, and constantly people were working and they were finishing. It was like 1 week or 10 days was remaining the whole job done.
Right. So I guess the question is, when you reached the point where you realized, okay, I don't have a license for the alcohol,
Then I stopped.
at that point, was it just a decision to say, well, since I don't have alcohol to put in the coolers, I'm not going to finish them? Or was it simply that you didn't realize you could repurpose them? Or I guess that's my question. We're just trying to figure out.
Because you know what, when you pay for the cooler, is 80% is the services. When you pay the cooler man, and he installed it, and pay for the delivery, pay for the installation and everything, that's it.
Right.
You lose already money.
Okay.
If I decided to sell the cooler, they offer me $1,200.
So I guess the question is, let me rephrase and just into something going forward. If we came out of this meeting today, and the determination was, and first of all, regardless of how we end up going today, there's still a whole other step, because we're going to make a recommendation. If you get what you want from us, you still have to wait for ABC to say yes or no. If you don't get what you want from us, you can still go to the city council and ask them. So, I mean, this is by far not the final answer. But if today we were to say, we agree with the director's decision, we don't think you should get a license.
Can I answer that?
Well, my question is, going forward, from a business standpoint, where would you be?
I can answer.
I am dead.
Okay,
100% dead.
thank
Be
you.
out the door.
Yes.
Okay,
I owe this gentleman here $60,000, plus all the expenses he has, all the money he has spent.
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Did you have any more questions, Commissioner Ludden?
No.
Anybody else have any questions?
Yes, I do, and I'm almost afraid to say them. Tonight, we're being called to make a collective determination in this application for either a denial or approval or nothing. And we recognize, I think the staff recognizes, that there's really an absence of a specific policy to provide guidance for us. That's the core of the problem. So now we're being asked to look at certain factors. One of the things I've heard discussed here is that given the existing census tract, there is a saturation of licenses in that tract. And what we're hearing is that 3 is a guideline and that there are 7 in that. We've also heard tonight that we shouldn't just consider that specific census tract. We ought to take a broader view and to look at the fact that there are adjacent census tracts. So are we saying that it's saturated within that given census tract, but I thought I heard at least one of us say that it wasn't a saturation if we considered adjacent census tracts? Can we kind of see what our collective
I'll go ahead
opinion
and,
is?
I'm going to attempt to clarify just to keep things moving. But I think to a certain extent you are correct. What I would say, and I'm sure that the young lady to my left will tell me if I'm wrong, is that the way the census tracts works, they're based on population. But as city planners, populations and business populations are by design, to a large part, kept separate. And so we've ended up, by design, with areas where we have large concentrations of businesses and small concentrations of people. And this is one of those tracts. So if we look at this tract and we say, based on the number of people who live in it, it only gets 3 under state law without extra steps being taken. And I think what we're being asked to consider by my colleague is to say, yes, but we've created this oversaturation by purposely saying these neighborhoods where it's only homes, we don't want any alcohol in them, let's put it over here. And so the consideration that I think she's asking us to make is to say, let's look at the big picture, how we got to where we are. Yes, there's more than 3, but that's because we don't want them in the neighborhoods. We want them in these concentrated areas. And so, is that
Well, I agree with you. I think it's important to know what our collective opinion is on that specific
Well,
item.
I think he stated that quite well, except I just have a concern about your core of the problem.
Okay.
And you stated that the core of the problem is that there's a lack of policy. Well, the state of California has a policy, and there's cities all up and down the state of California that use this policy. Now, probably there are some cities that might have, 1, 2, 3 criteria that you must meet. They might say, oh, in our cases, it's the director of development that looks at it. There's all these different scenarios that cities are using, but there's no lack of a policy. It's our state policy, and it gives thinking minds the ability to say, in this particular tract, you can have more than 3. In fact, you can have more than 7, and maybe you want 9, because there's this big saturation number that they do say with our city, and they says, okay, so once you reach this, and where are we in that number?
I don't know. I don't have the exact numbers with me, but we're under the number.
We're under the let's say there can be 50 in the city of Lake Forest.
I think it's 31.
Let's say it's 31, and we're below that number. So there are some cities in the state of California that are at their 31. The numbers change based on population. So we're not at our 31. So they're saying, okay, there's 5 mines up here. Look at what your city is. Look at what Baker Ranch is, and look at what Foothill Ranch is, and look at what the Lake 2 and Lake 1 is, and they're all residential, and all of our businesses are along El Toro. But there's no convenience stores in this particular census tract. If you use the word convenience store as I would use it, and have used it since I was 7, going to 7-Eleven and getting a Slurpee, and then you look at Muirlands, and you travel along Muirlands, and if you're coming from Irvine or wherever you work, and you're traveling to Mission Viejo, as the applicant has suggested, there are no convenience stores along that little trail that he's saying, I have an idea here. I had an idea a year and a half ago. I tried to do it, and there was some miscommunication, right or wrong, on his part, on her part, but he has put a lot of money, and then you have this business owner who probably just met this man. He knocked on his door and said, I want to rent, and I want to do this, but then he had great hope, and he had great confidence in this businessman to put up a business. And there's just been a little twerks and some mistakes, and I would probably say that Sam might say, I've made some mistakes, but you have a landowner that's saying, I believe in him, and you have a wife that's saying, I believe in him, and he just wants to run a business. And in my opinion, it doesn't make Lake Forest, I think it brings great things to Lake Forest in that it's a convenience store. I also think that if we look at what our chief of police has said, and it doesn't add crime.
Okay.
Okay, so to keep things moving in the right direction and to get us back on track a little bit before we start heading that way, would somebody like to bring a motion so that we can officially start to discuss, or are we not there yet?
Well, Commissioner Almeida, did you finish your questions?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, actually.
And continue.
I just want to tell my colleague, well done. I don't know how to respond. I'm left with this thought of there has to be some kind of construct of how we make these decisions. And I'm looking here at the basis of the denial, and there's a couple of items. I'm going to take them out of order. And one is that the high concentration of licenses in this area creates an undue ease of access to alcohol. And I'm asking us, do we agree with that or we disagree with that? The other item is the existing concentration of licenses is sufficient to satisfy public convenience or necessity. I'm looking at page 3. There's the PCN determination, and it says that the denial is based on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 thoughts, ideas, among other things.
Is this the one that was on the podium?
Yeah.
This is technically from 1 year and a half ago, just so you're aware.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong staff report.
The same in the report,
Okay. Well, those are my thoughts anyway. I don't know what other opinions we have.
Can I, Mr. Chair, if I could just interrupt for 1 second, just to draw the Commission's attention to the staff report. I'm hearing some discussion about guidelines and things of that nature, and Vice Chair is correct, there are no set guidelines for when you issue these, but if, for the Commission's consideration, starting on page 3 of the staff report, there at the bottom, you'll see the factors that the Planning Commission and Director have considered in looking at the PCN issue. So that might give you some assistance there in trying to work your way through this particular application. So they go from page 3 over to page 4. There are factors that have been considered, if that's helpful.
Right, and I agree. That's actually, those factors come from, as Commissioner Fuente said, the state guidelines, basically. So they kind of, in broader terms, these are the factors to look at. But they're not an exhaustive list by any means. And I think, speaking only for myself, I think I would love to see, and I kind of alluded to it earlier, I would agree that we don't have no policy on a city level, but we have a very poorly set forth policy. I've been railing on this for the 2+ years that I've been sitting up here. And they're finally, sometime this summer, going to sit down and revisit it as a city council. I would love to see them give us a more structured, we want X, Y, and Z. But at the same time, and I know what they're struggling with, is if you get too exhaustive and too definitive, then you also end up with this situation where everything's either very cookie cutter or non-existent because we've over-regulated it, and I don't want that either. So I would like some more clarification. I would like, myself personally, more of a change in the procedure of how we get to here. Nothing against Gail or the job that she does. I think she's busted her tail for many years, and she's very talented at what she does. I don't think it was a good idea to ever give her that power. That's just me, and not her, but it wasn't a good idea to give her position that power. Because I think this type of license, this type of discussion is something that should, from the day one, be held in the open. And so that's where I fall on that, just to give you a little bit more of where we're all coming from. So, go ahead, Jerry.
Yeah, I'd like to just make a couple of comments. This isn't one that I think you can just, and obviously from the discussion that's been ongoing here tonight, this isn't one of those things that you can just say, yeah, I agree with the director's decision or I disagree with it. There's a multitude of factors that are involved here. The guidelines that we have from the state of California are exactly that. They're guidelines, and I know that I think from the first one that we did a number of years ago, where we had that opportunity, it was a learning experience for the Planning Commission as well as, particularly the Planning Commission, because we had not had that jurisdiction that here before that it had been a city council level. And I don't know what they're going to do with it in the future. It really doesn't matter. What we're asked here to do tonight is to evaluate And I think we've done a really good job of evaluating. I think the applicant has put forth their position. One of the things that I noted is this is a Type 20 license application as opposed to a Type 21. We're talking about beer and wine as opposed to a full array of different alcoholic beverages. My personal thoughts initially were from a convenience standpoint, from a necessity standpoint, having CVS across the street, having CVS having a Type 21 license. I couldn't justify the convenience or the necessity, but what I can say is that what it might do to drive traffic, foot traffic, to run across Muirlands, I think would be a great injustice in the aspect because people are not going to walk up to the signalized intersection, they're not going to go across at the crosswalk, and they're not going to walk over to CVS and get that. Right? They're just not going to do it. I mean, we all have been around that neighborhood. We've seen the foot traffic, and you know they're not going to do it. So it's kind of mixed emotion, and my thoughts are that we have a fiduciary responsibility to our community, but we also have a fiduciary responsibility to our property owners and our business owners. And so we're going to walk a real fine line here tonight. And I think I'll just stop with there.
Mr. Chairman, before we decide, I'd like to hear any comments that Tom might have.
I have several.
Okay. I'll ask you this just for the sake of brevity after the cows are already out of the barn. Are they better served before or after a motion? Because we still have we have the opportunity for discussion after the motion. I'll defer to you.
I'll make a motion to reverse the director's opinion for the sake of discussion. I'll make a motion to reverse the director's decision for the sake of discussion.
I'll second.
Okay, so go ahead with your comments.
Okay. I'm not going to repeat some of what's already been said. I think there is an issue because part of my problem with this is there's 3 pending PCNs right now at the City Council that are undecided. And that's 3 more that we don't know if they're going to happen or not. And that this would now make number 4. And I suspect there's 1 more coming. That makes 5. That takes us a little bit closer to that 31 number. And I'm concerned about that in terms of who we approve and who we don't approve. Well, the 3 that are at the City Council, they're going to make that decision, not us. I think in reality, whatever we decide here tonight, somebody's going to appeal it, and that the one here tonight's going to the City Council also very likely. I'd say there's probably a 90% chance this is going to the council. I do understand the difficulty that the business owner's under. I feel his pain for things not going his way, and I think probably however he got into this situation, what part of the blame the city has, and whatever part of the blame he holds, that's a difficult thing. And I'm not here to put somebody out of business, frankly. But on the other hand, I think part of the problem I have with all this convenience thing is that, convenience is a funny word, and I think if you go by Commissioner Fuentes' definition of convenience, if you took a very broad meaning, he would qualify for a convenience. Necessity, nobody's ever convinced me that selling alcohol is a necessity. In the store owner's case, it may be because that's his difference between surviving and not surviving. But nonetheless, I agree we do have a balance to make between the safety and the protection of the community versus the needs of the business owner. I don't particularly think in this case that approving this one would necessarily change the character of alcohol consumption in the area. I think it'll probably just take alcohol consumption from one store and move it to another in reality. So I suspect what will happen is the CVS across the street will do less business, and this gentleman will do more. There's only so many people buying it, and there's only so much of it to go around, and that's a concern for me, too, is that we've had so many people come in here and asking to sell alcohol because that's the difference between whether they make a profit or not. And that concerns me, because if we keep approving these things, we're only going to make that situation get worse. And then we're playing favorites as to who gets to survive and who doesn't. I mean, I commented a couple of years ago in front of the city council, and one of these came up that, when you start approving this stuff, you put yourself on a slippery slope, and pretty soon you have to decide that you can't say no to any of them. You either say yes to all of them, or you say no to all of them. And I don't think that's exactly what needs to happen here. My opinions change a little bit over time. But I think that this is an unusual situation. I don't think that this store and its location causes a real problem in terms of what we hear as concentration. Concentration, in my mind, is an arbitrary standard that was set by the state of California as a minimum. It's not the maximum. It's a minimum. The city is allowed to make their own decision as to how much of this stuff they want. And that's part of why we're here. So, in my opinion, I'm still thinking a little bit more about what to do with this, but I think that I would like to have a little bit more understanding of the applicant's experience in selling alcohol. I'm not sure that, in my opinion, has not been well explained. And I would ask him to come back and, before I vote, to give me a little more background on his experience in selling alcohol. My experience with one of the other applicants up here was they came up here and they said they had all this experience and never had a problem. I went and checked their ABC record, and they had lots of trouble. So, I'm real concerned about, if I approve somebody, are they really going to do what they say they're going to do? Because once I approve you, I have no more leverage over you. So then I have to depend on your honesty and your integrity that you're going to do what you say you're going to do. And so that's kind of where I am. So I really, if you don't mind, I'd like you to come back and tell me some more of your experience in selling alcohol and what you do that's unique to your store to make sure that nobody gets it that should not have it, or you're not going to sell it to somebody who's intoxicated that should not have it.
Before we actually get into that, and I hate to step on the toes of a fellow commissioner, we have a motion on the floor. Are we allowed to do this? And I realized in housekeeping, the motion didn't include closing the public forum. So I'm just curious where we stand. I want to make sure we're not breaking any rules.
The public hearing is still open. The public hearing has not been closed. So until the commission closes the public hearing, you may continue to entertain.
Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure we weren't breaking any rules. Thank you.
Thank you, CJ, for keeping me honest.
Well, I don't know how to satisfy your judgment on this matter. If you believe in me, I am telling the truth. If you are not believing me, it's very, very easy. You can check with the ABC. They have my name. They have my address. They have all the addresses that previously I opened businesses.
How many other businesses have you opened in the past? You've mentioned one in Crown Valley. You mentioned one in Newport Beach. Are there others?
Still they are under operation over Anaheim Hills. I had one over in Jamboree and Bristol, Newport Beach. I had another one over on Bristol and Irvine Center Drive. It used to be called that city used to be called Anaheim Hills. Santa Ana Hills. And then I had one over 17th Street, East 17th Street. I had a few of them over on First Street, Santa Ana. They were closed after all these years. Quite a few of them. I can provide you with the list and everything that if you need it.
Okay. Thank you very much. That helps me understand you a little bit better.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And if it helps, I will add that, for what it's worth, I actually pulled the ABC records when we reviewed this in 2013, and as best I could research it, I did not find any violations. So,
Yeah. You want to,
I'll amend my motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second that amended motion.
thank you. Okay, anybody else would like to comment?
Well, I would just like to clarify, because I think you mentioned the number 31, Commissioner Ledden did, and that number changes with population increase, correct?
Correct.
And I wanted
Yeah, well, that was
Commissioner
based
to
on the number,
understand
that was based on the number they gave us at the last one.
Right,
we did.
right.
And yeah, you're right, it can change.
It can go up.
It'll go up as the population goes up.
All right. So I just wanted to clarify that for all the commissioners.
Anyone else? Okay, so I've actually kind of tried to hold back on commenting a whole lot because I really wanted to just soak it all in. And I will come right out and say it. In 2013, I voted against this gentleman. Not against him as an individual, but I didn't believe that this was the right place or the right time for another liquor license. And so when I looked at this application and I noticed the name, and my initial reaction was, wait a minute, didn't we already approve, or just didn't we already deny this, and why are we looking at this again only a year and a half later? But we're tasked with doing our homework and reading the reports and taking in all the information, and I try very hard not to come into anything with preconceived notions. And as I started reading through a very well-written report, I realized, the question I was asking myself is, well, what's changed? Because if nothing's changed, why should my vote change? And, well, what's changed is we're being asked for a Type 20 instead of Type 21. It's a much softer footprint in the world of alcohol. We're being asked to consider the fact that since the last time we were asked, CVS has changed their business model and dropped all tobacco products. And then on top of that, I think that there's been more. We didn't have neighboring businesses coming in and saying, hey, I've seen this guy in business for a year and a half. He's a good guy. You can trust him. We didn't have that last time. There's a list of things basically that have changed. I was torn last time, and I didn't get there. And so I'm still torn, but I wouldn't be at all surprised. I'm going to let you guys wait till I hit a button, but I am much less torn than last time. I looked at this and I said, what's changed? And I see a significant list of changes, all of which are changed in the direction of, maybe this is the right time and the right place. So I will leave it there. If nobody else has any questions or comments, I'll call the question, but I'll give another chance up here.
can we just re-clarify the motion, just so it's confirmed?
The motion is to reverse the director's decision and approve the PCN.
Do we need,
And make
we need
that,
to make findings, don't we?
I was just going to suggest, if I could, Chair, that we would recommend that the motion include direction to staff to bring a resolution with findings back for the Commission's consideration in light of the evidence presented and the Commissioner's comments about serving certain population of the citizenry with the convenience market, the nature of the business, relationship to other businesses in the area and such.
Okay.
then I'll amend the motion to direct staff to come back with a resolution, except, approving a PCN for this, and then we can do, I think a lot of the findings already exist in the current documents, but
Right.
I think we could say that the other part of one of the findings is it's a town, it's a Type 20 instead of a Type 21. The fact that the CVS is no longer selling tobacco products, which provides a different marketing footprint in that neighborhood.
The fact that the bulk of the concentration is at the far opposite end of the tract.
Yeah, the bulk of the concentration is not in his immediate area.
Could I ask a question of staff?
Sure.
There are two pending applications I think are on hold, and they both involve the 99-cent store. Are they likely to come before us, or are they now in the...
Yeah, they both have already come to the Planning Commission. One was approved and one was denied, and then they've asked to hold off on their appeal.
All right, so we're no longer in that.
Yeah, that'll only be heard by City Council.
Thank you.
Well, do we have a second to the amendment?
I seconded it already.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and call the question on the clarified motion. So, sure, it's a motion to reverse the director's decision and direct staff to return at the next, the quickest possible turnaround anyway, whenever the next meeting probably, with a resolution that incorporates the necessary findings to support that.
That would be a resolution approving the PCN.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay?
But we might add one more finding now that it is a convenience store. That would be a good one.
So are we ready to vote? And the motion carries 4-1. Congratulations for what it's worth at this level. Because as Commissioner Ludden said, it's not likely done here, but it's moving in the right direction for you. So. And with that, we will move on to agenda item number 5. And we will welcome back our esteemed director.
Agenda item number 5, a site development permit for the First Element Hydrogen Fuel Station, and Ron Santos has the staff report this evening.
Chairman Brower, members of the Planning Commission, this item is a proposal to install a hydrogen fuel station at an existing Chevron gas station located at the southwest corner of Lake Forest Drive and Dimension Drive. The proposed facility consists of a single fuel dispenser with a small overhead canopy, an 814 square foot, 13 foot tall masonry equipment enclosure, a hydrogen storage tank, a compressor, and a separate fueling stanchion. The proposed facility would be unmanned, self-service, and operational 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, in a manner that is very similar to that of a conventional gasoline dispenser, with the primary exceptions being that the dispenser would serve hydrogen-powered vehicles, and the hydrogen would be stored in an above-ground fuel tank rather than below ground. The project also includes relocation of 9 parking spaces on site, plus 2 new spaces for a total of 11, not including the parking at each of the fuel dispensers. The proposed facility is one of 19 similar installations planned for implementation across California over the course of the next year, and a network of over 40 facilities anticipated over the next several years. In order to demonstrate that the facility would be compatible with surrounding properties, the applicant submitted noise and traffic studies that considered future scenarios which assumed expanded use of hydrogen fuel vehicles based on current projections for that technology. The studies concluded that the proposed equipment would not exceed the city's noise standards or otherwise impact surrounding properties, and that the traffic generated by the project would not significantly impact the adjacent intersection or roadways. In addition, the applicant designed the equipment enclosure to closely match the architecture of the existing convenience store and the car wash that's on the site, and is proposing to add a 5-foot wide landscape planter that would partially screen the equipment enclosure and soften the view from Dimension Drive. As indicated in the staff report, the project is fully compliant with applicable development standards and provides on-site parking that is consistent with the Institute of Traffic Engineers Parking Generation Manual, which staff referenced in the absence of a parking standard for automobile fueling stations in the city's zoning code. The project was also reviewed for consistency with the citywide design guidelines. There's a checklist that's included as an attachment to your reports, and to ensure that adequate on-site circulation would be maintained, including for the trucks delivering hydrogen fuel to the site. Lastly, but not leastly, the project plans were reviewed by the Orange County Fire Authority and our own building official to ensure that the facility would meet applicable safety standards. On the basis of this review and the findings in the draft resolution, staff is recommending approval of the project as proposed and subject to standard requirements and conditions, including those recommended by the Orange County Fire Authority. To date, staff has not received any public comments or inquiries regarding the project. And with that, I'll conclude my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. And the applicant's team is also in attendance should you have any questions for them. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry. I guess there's any questions for staff. And then we will go into public speaking. Public speakers.
Dr. Shane Stephen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the Commission. My name is Dr. Shane Stevens. I'm one of the co-founders of First Element Fuel, and we're based in Irvine, California. Our company is dedicated to retailing hydrogen fuel to customers of fuel cell vehicles. This is a car that can have a lot of positive impacts in the state of California and in the world. And to launch a market, they need a place to fuel, and we're providing that. Since this is new, I thought I would just spend a few minutes providing some background. I'll try to keep it brief. Feel free to give me the hook if I if I go too long. California drives the direction of the automobile market for the rest of the world. And for the last 40 years, it's been driving that market towards cleaner, less polluting vehicles. And the vision for the state of California and leading automakers that sell cars in the state is to introduce mass volumes of zero-emission cars. And really, there's just two options. One is the battery electric car, and you see those starting to get a foothold in the marketplace. And the other one is the fuel cell electric car, which offers some different characteristics, I think, to kind of broaden the umbrella of the market for zero-emission cars. So a little bit on what fuel cell cars are. They're actually an electric car, but they produce their own electricity on board using hydrogen in a fuel cell. And that reaction in the fuel cell is quiet, it's clean, and it's highly efficient. So the only emission out of the tailpipe is water. The performance of this car is really meant to mimic a gasoline vehicle. So they can fuel in 3 or 4 minutes. They go 300 to 400 miles on a single tank. The one main difference is that they're actually nearly double the efficiency of a gasoline car. So they get around 60 miles to the gallon equivalent. The major automakers that are developing these cars and bringing them to market are Toyota, Honda, and Hyundai are kind of the first to market. And then Mercedes-Benz, Volkswagen, Audi, Porsche, and General Motors will be bringing cars in the 2017-2018 timeframe. A little bit of background, Honda actually began leasing a limited number of cars to the public in 2008. And there's actually, I have one of the Honda fuel cell cars out in the parking lot in case anybody wants to see one on the way out. Hyundai is actually leasing cars today to the public. Honda is bringing their commercial car, which they will start selling to the public in 2016. But the most bullish company on fuel cells is actually Toyota, who's been demonstrating actually cars leased to the public here in California since 2002. They've gone through several generations of prototypes, and they are launching their car commercially in October. And they actually just recently announced 8 California dealerships that are going to be receiving this car. One of them is Toyota of Orange, and another one is Tustin Toyota. So 2 of those 8 right here in Orange County. And where we are today, launching this commercial vehicle is a result of more than a decade of on-road experience right here in California. And Orange County has actually been one of the leaders in this lead up to commercialization. The National Fuel Cell Research Center is stationed right here at UC Irvine. We've had 3 public hydrogen stations, demonstration stations operating here in the area, the first one since 2002. And more than 100 cars have been deployed here for demonstration purposes. In Orange County alone, we now have 6 commercial stations that are being developed currently at this time. 3 of those are our company, and 3 more by other companies here in the area. So over this more than a decade of fuelings to the public, hydrogen stations have been developed, and hydrogen has been proven to be safe in fueling. There's actually more than 50 years of experience of hydrogen in industrial applications. It's used from everything from making microchips to making peanut butter. So, a lot of industrial applications. During this time, it's been proven that it's safe, in many ways safer than traditional fuels like gasoline, diesel, and natural gas. Hydrogen is actually the lightest molecule in the world. It travels upward at 65 feet per second. So if you have a leak of it, it's gone very fast. It's also non-toxic, non-poisonous, so it's in many ways safer to be around the public. In the case of an accident or a leak, it doesn't spill, it doesn't contaminate, it doesn't get into the ground. So those are some of the aspects of learning that's occurred. So we're taking that learning of more than a decade and actually taking advantage of that to commercialize these first round of stations. As Ron mentioned, we're doing 19 throughout the state in this first round, and we're really doing this as a network. So we're concentrating in some early market areas, and Lake Forest is a great example of that. But we're also providing some connection and destination stations. One will be on the I-5 at Harris Ranch, for those of you that have driven the I-5 up to San Francisco. Another one will be in Lake Tahoe up in Truckee. So the idea being that we can show the full utility of this car, and that if somebody buys a fuel cell vehicle in San Diego, on day 1 they could drive that car up to Truckee to go skiing. And hopefully we'll soon have stations in other places like Bishop, Las Vegas, in addition to building out more stations in these early key markets. The state of California, actually, with a grant program, is supporting the development of this station and all of our 19 stations because this is a tough business in the early years. It will take time for the uptake of vehicles, so our revenue is going to be pretty slow probably for the first 5 to 7 years. But the good news is that we have really strong backing during this growth period. The state of California is backing us with grants, as I mentioned. We also have Toyota and Honda financing our company. By selling these cars to customers, Toyota and Honda are in a position that they are obliged to make sure that these stations are up and operating. So they're very involved in our business in addition to the financing to make sure we're viable in the long term. Furthermore, there's a consensus among state agencies, regional agencies, and automakers as a stakeholder group in the state, and we're regularly working with agencies like the Energy Commission, the California Air Resources Board, the South Coast AQMD. So finally, I'll just conclude by saying that Lake Forest, in addition to some of our other early stations, has been selected as an early market area. A lot of work has gone into this by automakers, by academicians, and the demographic here is environmentally conscious, affluent, and forward-thinking about their vehicle choices. So it's not by chance that this area is selected. So we're really excited to be here and embarking on what we believe is the next generation of vehicle technologies, and so hopefully you'll welcome us to your city. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other requests to speak? We'll bring it back up here. Any comments, questions? Who'd like to go first?
I noticed in your presentation to us that you don't have any on-site personnel, but you do have people that respond in case something happens. Can you go into a little more detail about how that works?
So our stations, in terms of the customer interface, have a POS system, so they'll be able to swipe a credit card and feel that automatically. But in addition to that, we're really focused on the customer experience. We want this to be an encouragement of the adoption of these vehicles. So we're going to have an app that has a lot of information in it about the location of stations, if there's an issue at that station, if for some reason there's a glitch and it goes offline. And also it's going to have a 24/7 access where they can call and talk to a person. We'll also have just a regular phone number where they can do that as well, but the app for the drivers will have that. So in addition to that, our station is monitored telemetrically, everything from a camera actually observing the station to things that are observing, the pressure at the station, the compressor at the station, different performance aspects of the equipment there. We do have a maintenance team that will be deployed, focused here in Southern California. We'll have a maintenance team in the Bay Area as well that can be deployed quickly to fix any issues should they arise. In addition to that, this information will be, the appropriate information will be conveyed to the Orange County Fire Authority and first responders should it be an issue that requires some attention by first responders.
So the communications method you use to communicate with the station, is that strictly telephone, internet, satellite?
Yes, it's telephone and internet, so it's not satellite.
Okay. So it depends on an internet connection to make it work?
Correct, and we're actually spending a lot of money on an internet connection that is, an extra layer of robustness that will avoid any problems with this going down. I do have our Vice President of Technical Operations here. I just want to confer with him to make sure I'm not missing something.
This is Ghassan Sleeman, First Element VP Operations. So to answer your question, if internet goes down, we get an alarm, and that dispatches somebody to site to fix the internet issues.
So it's like a security system. It tells you if it's not there.
Yeah, there's a heartbeat. Every second the machine is telling us that it's talking to us, and we're telling the machine that we're talking to it. So if either one goes offline, we get an alarm.
You mentioned in your presentation also that the equipment fail-safes in certain ways.
Yes.
Can you go in a little more detail about how that works? And you've got a really high-pressure compressor there. That's a serious compressor you put in that thing.
Yeah, and it's not new. It's things that we've been working with, or I've been working with for the last 15 years. All the valves are fail-safe, which means they fail closed, and they're all air-operated. So if the air system fails, everything fails closed. If a line gets cut, it fails closed. If the electricity goes out, it fails closed. So all the storage systems that contain the hydrogen all get isolated from the outside world. Okay. In addition, if there's a leak detected by the system, they all shut down. During the fill, there's up to 4 pressure checks into the vehicle that ensures that there's no leaks in the system.
Okay, do you have to bleed off any hydrogen because of the fact that you have to put it under pretty high pressure or anything like that? Is there any bleed off that you have to just keep it in liquid state?
It's not liquid, it's gas.
It's all gas. Everything's gas.
Yeah.
No liquid at all.
No liquid. So no bleed off. No 3% vapor loss at all. So all the hydrogen is contained and remains contained in the system. And our maintenance staff will periodically go and check for leaks on all the lines and all the tubing.
What type of tank do you use for storage? Is that a double wall tank or something like that? How does that work?
It's what we call type 3 and type 4 tanks. So they're type 2 or type 3 tanks. They're plastic liner, and then they have carbon fiber on the outside, similar to what buses use, except for hydrogen. So it's a different liner and a much thicker wall.
So if one of those internal bladders ruptures, does the hydrogen just leaks out and just goes to the atmosphere, and that's the end of it?
That's exactly correct. We've actually done some modeling on our equipment to see what that looks like, and it's all gone from a tank in less than 10 minutes.
Okay. I'll just add that there should never be a rupture because there are pressure relief valves also built into the system. But of course, in the case that everything fails and there is a rupture, the tank is designed to maintain its integrity in that case.
And just so I don't get in trouble with Peggy, since you came to the podium, or you have one, never mind. I just want to make sure I'm on top of my housekeeping tonight. So.
Well, I remember in the good old days when I was in the semiconductor business, we used to have trailers of hydrogen out behind our building. We always used to be real careful with those because we figured if anything ever happened there, we'd leave a big hole in the ground.
I was surprised by your depth of knowledge, so that explains it.
So,
Anyway, that was just so that I could get a better feel for how it works and what it is, because being unattended, hydrogen is, the problem with hydrogen is it burns clear and you can't see it. If you get a hydrogen fire, you don't see it.
Yeah, and I think you'll see, as part of our plan, we have the leak detectors and flame detectors, so that our equipment will know, even if visibly you can't see it.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. That was a good explanation. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
while you're up here, I just, from a practical standpoint for me, and it's changed a little bit since I have kids and I don't have time to make the trips to Vegas on a weekend like I used to, but I've always kind of looked and said, oh, that's a really neat idea, but when it's got a range of more than 80 miles, I'll consider it. And so please tell me that Baker is on your list of locations, because it just, I mean, like you said, I know you said maybe Vegas, but as long as you're still operating in California, if you've got a 300 to 400 mile range, if you can top off in Baker, you can get to Vegas and get back to Baker, so you're okay. So
I think we want to hit all of those extensions. I think the order is the question is in what order will we hit them? Not if, but when.
Okay. And then I'm curious as to your business model. And by that I mean specific to this location, you're kind of piggybacking on an existing service station. So is it separate and distinct businesses, and you're just paying a sublease for the footprint that you're taking, or?
That's exactly right. We pay the landowner a lease fee, and there are some gas stations, like the corporate-owned ones, have policies that only their brand can exist there. So we are a little bit limited in terms of what type of business we can work with, and also we have to find gas stations that actually have the space. This one is actually one of the nicest ones that we're working with, because some of them get pretty constrained, and we're trying to fit. This is really great.
Okay. And then, is it safe to assume then that there's a good working relationship there? In other words, I can envision somebody pulls up to your pump and they say it's not working right, and they're walking over to the convenience store and saying, hey, the pump isn't working. Mm-hmm. And so, will there be some sort of kind of human redundancy where they say, hey, here's the number, call them?
Yeah, absolutely. So the owner of this particular station is G&M Oil, and they're actually a pretty large gas station owner. So one of the better ones, very, very professional to work with. Yeah. So, and we will provide some training and some materials to staff on site so that they can respond to some level of questions, or at least know who to notify from our team should a person be approached there. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Anyone else?
Well, I was wondering why you chose Lake Forest, and you kind of answered that. I'm not sure I'm really convinced we're all that forward-thinking here, but I'm going to go with it. And at that location, I think you've kind of answered that, too. I was thinking you might choose something that would be closer to one of our larger, the 5 or the 241, but I guess it's probably because there's not a space at a location or an owner that is interested. So.
That's right.
All right, go forward thinking Lake Forest.
Well, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I think we're good there. I'll bring it back up to the
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing. We'll bring it back up.
Yeah.
Okay. I just did it.
So just to clarify, it's the motion to close the public hearing and approve staff recommendation as
approve
presented?
staff's recommendation as presented.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Anyone else feel the need to clamor on? All right, let's vote. And motion carries 5-0. And just from a purely anecdotal standpoint, I had a gentleman at the opening of the compressed natural gas station pull me aside and said, hey, you're going to be getting a hydrogen one too. And I just think it's awesome that Lake Forest is moving in this direction. So people do notice. Maybe we're more forward thinking than we thought. So
Welcome. Welcome to the city. I'm glad you're here.
All right. Thank you. All right, so agenda-wise, I think that's everything, so we'll move into direct.
I have no comments this evening.
Okay. Our city attorney.
Nor do I.
Okay. So who'd like to start up here?
I'll go.
Okay.
I stopped by the Majeska Playhouse grand opening tonight, and it looks like they have some exciting things going on there. They're actually starting some classes for young children, and I think they have a performance going on starting. I actually already started, The Secrets of a Soccer Mom. So I gave you all that, and then tomorrow, a little reminder is the Subaru grand reopening. That is, I believe, at 4. So that's kind of exciting because that came through our desk. So anyway, that's it.
Okay, since ladies are first, effort and always are first.
Thank you.
I'm going to take this Majeska Playhouse, and I'm going to take from what was just said to us that we're forward-thinking, that we're financially upwardly mobile, and that we're ecological. And I think we should all become kids, because I can't wait to go home and tell my wife that I'm forward-thinking, that I'm financially upwardly mobile, and that I'm ecological. And she'll do just like you all did. She'll laugh at me. I think staff did a great job. You know, the PCRN is always one of those things that we grapple with. It's probably going to be one of the things that we'll have the opportunity to grapple with again and again and again. But I think that tonight there was a lot of information that we didn't know. There was changes from a year ago, a little over a year ago. And I want to commend both staff and the commission for doing what I think was a great job tonight. And one last thing. The El Toro JV baseball team won the league on Tuesday. Yay! Yay. My grandson's on that team.
I thought we had a really good meeting tonight. I was very pleased with the discussion that I heard. I thought a lot of good things came out of it. I'm really excited to see the hydrogen fueling station in town. I think that is a major step, and I think that will draw other types of activities into the city right behind it, which I think is good. Considering I drive 75 miles a day to go back and forth to work, the idea of the hydrogen car gets more and more appealing to me. And if I can just make sure there's enough places to refuel it. But I do think we had a good meeting tonight. I would like to see us, I think, as a commission going forward to do more in dealing with the drought situation in the state of California, and especially in our city. I know it's become a big topic of discussion at the Lake Forest 2 Homeowners Association. I think Lake One now has quite a discussion going about it. And one of the things I'm concerned about is that we as a city teach our homeowners how to deal with how to get rid of the water guzzling plantings and landscape and go to things that are more drought tolerant but are still good looking and attractive and aesthetic. Some of the stuff I see advertised out there on TV just kind of makes me cringe. I would hate to see our city look like that. So, I think that maybe that's something, as we go forward during the year, it's something maybe we want to think about what we can do as a commission to contribute to dealing with the drought situation and what will happen going forward. I think as a city we're probably doing some things to kind of set the example for that, but I think there's probably more that we could do. And we're being criticized for being the unplanning commission, and I don't think that's right. I think there's a lot of things we can be working on that are productive, and I think this is one of them. And so that's kind of my comments for tonight. Again, staff did a marvelous job on these presentations. I'm very, very happy that we have them, and I depend on them heavily when I get that book every month. So congratulations to you. Thank you very much.
I'd like my colleague to know that I was also at the opening. Yeah. And that was an exciting idea, and I'm kind of proud of our city, figured out how to do that. And I'm proud of the staff that they worked out how to share the parking and how to make that facility exist. That was a darn good job. Thank you. That's item number 1. Item number 2, can the staff give us an update on the status of the ad hoc traffic committee?
We can prepare some information and send that out to you. That's not being handled by our department. That's with the Public Works Department. My understanding is that the city clerk is preparing application material so that we can have folks apply for that. I've been on vacation for the last 2 weeks, so I don't know if that has actually gone out, if it's on the city's website yet, but we can provide some updated information to you.
There's no urgency. I was just curious.
Okay.
Because I was gone also.
Okay.
All right. Fine. Those are my thoughts.
Well, I would agree with all that. I think we had a very good meeting tonight. It's now actually on the record for posterity that I do have the ability to change my mind, contrary to my wife's beliefs. But I can change and grow. But well, that was a whole different animal. But when you first handed me this, I was in the middle of reading something else, and I kind of glanced at it, and I thought, oh, she's launching a blog.
Your wife's?
No, you.
Oh.
Secrets of a Soccer Mom. I said, oh, okay. So, but yeah, other than that, I'm just happy to be up here serving with all of you, and I will say thank you and see you all next time. Do we have a date for the next one?
June 11th.
Thank you. So I will close tonight's meeting, adjourned to the next scheduled meeting on June 11th.